Hello, Ashley Nance here, ready to talk IEP meetings. I interviewed a whole bunch of moms and learned some stuff from them, adding to my own experience. And let's jump in and I will share my screen and we can get started. Desktop, share. Okay, so let's get out of here and press play on the share. What I want to do is to talk about advocating for our kids at IEP meetings and the whole eligibility process, anything about special needs this will apply to. I interviewed moms. I'm a special educator myself, and hopefully we can, in our short time together, go over some quick tips you can use even if your IEP meeting is tomorrow. And then at the end, I'll discuss a little bit about the pilot training course that I put together based on the feedback I got from his responses. So here's this cute, adorable little boy, ready to learn. And we're going to talk about Power IEP Advocacy. So this is me. My little screen. My name is Ashley Nance. I like to say I talk people into talking to people who don't talk. One of my fun things that I do is talk to people who are pre-verbal or nonverbal, and also helping advocate for people who either care for them or should care for them. I've written on the Mighty about things that people say to moms with special needs kids and those kids with special needs in the store that you can search for if you want. It's kind of fun. And even in my work in marketing, I've done a lot of work with this where of advocating for people who can't advocate for themselves. My journey began as a sister. My sister has autism spectrum disorder. It used to be called Asperger's. I wrote a book about it, actually, and then grew up a little bit more after publishing that book to realize that I have a daughter with autism spectrum disorder as well. I'm going to call her Sunny. And before she was 5, we had quite a time with her. She had digestive issues from birth, and when she's about 14 months old, started to run around like she had a motor attached to her, and everybody we asked was like, oh yeah, she's happy, she's normal, she's so smart. I'm like, yeah, okay, so she's all of those wonderful things, but she's also not okay, and I'm not going to stop looking until I find out what's up. So we have, I had the early childhood team come. They're like, yeah, she's really intelligent. She's just this beautiful, happy child. I'm like, yep, I could tell you all of those things, but that's not the issue. And a doctor suggested maybe candida. That wasn't tested. We had to move, and nobody else would take that possibility seriously. From the other doctors in other states that I went to, we did move several times while we were trying to pin things down. Had her assessed by an OT. She found that she would benefit from occupational therapy services. That's my little boy on the left here that you're hearing. Went to an allergist 3 times. I went all of those times looking for an answer that they didn't give me. Very annoying to have to tell again what I wanted and what I didn't want, and to be told again what they were actually willing to do, and that she was fine. Oh my goodness, I won't even get into that. Gastroenterologist, they changed the spelling on that. That's spelled incorrectly. I did get a note from her that she was to eat gluten-free, but she was still having issues. Eventually we cut milk, sugar, and grains. Try that with a 2 or 3-year-old. But especially gluten. She went to a behavior preschool. We changed the diet. They dropped her IEP. We learned from foster parent training some things about trauma that might have been part of like a premature birth and maybe a bad babysitter. We looked into counseling. She benefited quite a bit from that. and the initial assessment, they tagged her for autism. And then she finally was assessed by a psychologist for autism. As soon as they gave her the diagnosis, they stopped counseling because they said they weren't going to counsel somebody that had had autism because that requires a different therapy altogether. I'm like, so if an autistic child is traumatized, you're not going to give them therapy for being traumatized because they have autism? This is so twisted. And then we moved again and got her into mainstream kindergarten where she thrived. Now she's in first grade, and I can already tell that we're probably going to be looking at this IEP process for her. And I went through the eligibility process too for the one behind her in the purple. She also didn't qualify. So I guess my message here is that these things work whether the child qualifies or not. But it helps in the IEP meeting to feel confident and to know that what you're asking is reasonable and when to come back for a reassessment, which I'm doing, and wanting to help parents do for their children as well. My background, I'll go back to my picture, is with severe needs, with autism in the schools, and also vision. I was an early intervention vision specialist for a while, so I've seen IEP meetings from both sides of the table. And here's a picture of the whole family. Actually, a couple months ago, found out that my husband is also on the spectrum, so this journey is definitely an ongoing thing. But knowing what is reasonable to ask for and what can be done, what's fair and what's not fair, is super important and helpful in the process. So let's jump in. What I know about you. First of all, you're taking time, valuable time out of your life to learn more about IEP and advocating for your child. So I know that you are strong because there's a strength that comes with advocating for a child with special needs that does not come, it's hard won. It doesn't come easily. So whether you want to be strong or not, whether you want to be seen as strong or not, and whether or not you're weak as well, you are definitely strong. You are wise to really take the bull by the horns and not just let things happen, to actually invest some time and energy into learning how to advocate for your child. You're here, and I'm very grateful that you're willing to be part of this journey, that we're all on a journey together. And you are a good mom. There's so much of guilt and blaming running around. And it's so important to know moving forward before we do anything else, talk about anything else. You are a good mom. You're here. You're wanting to help. You're learning more. You're amazing. You're a good mom. So when I was a student teacher, the first grade teacher I was working with, and gave me this handout, and she said, this is all you need to know, really. This is what it boils down to. And what the little handout said is this big, and it's to put in my books. It said, know your stuff, know whom you're stuffing, and stuff them elegantly. So the idea being, you really just, it all comes down to this. Know what you're doing, know what you're saying, know what you need to tell them, understand who you're talking to, and then do what you need to do in an elegant way that is amicable and graceful. And so as I was pondering what format to put this presentation in and really make it digestible, this is what came to mind. And so if this is what the teacher is doing, educating our children, educating us about their role in educating our children, then we need to realize that this is the deal and this is our process. So if theirs is know your stuff, ours is know their stuff. If theirs is know whom you're stuffing, you need to know who's doing the stuffing. And if they're doing if they need to stuff elegantly, we need to not get stuff. So that's moving forward. I realize there's typos, I'm sorry. So there's stuff. These are some of the things. One of the biggest complaints that that parents had, biggest concerns especially, were you don't know what I don't know. So here are some terms that you can Google. IDEA 2004 is one of the biggest, most comprehensive special education laws on the books. It talks about categories, qualification standards under which a child needs to fall in order to be eligible for special services provided by the public schools. There are categories. I think there are more categories than when I was in school. There things like intellectual disability, physical disability, learning disability. And one of the reasons why they really harp on that eligibility piece is unless you fall under one of these categories, you do not qualify for special education services provided through the public school. So this is an important thing. Some other legal terms to know: least restrictive environment. The school is required to put the child in the setting, whether it's in the mainstream classroom, in a private school setting, in a special ed, self-contained special ed room within the school, with pull-out services, push-in services, whatever the setting is, needs to be the least restrictive environment. The least restrictive from what a mainstream child with typical development would get as part of their public education. So what other adaptations need to happen in the least possible restrictive environment. Some kids, least restrictive environment is a mainstream classroom with supports. Some kids, the least restrictive environment is home hospital with people coming to them. So it really depends on the child, but that's something you need to know. Free and appropriate public education says that no family has to pay for the public education of their child. So no matter how expensive the needs of the child are, the public school needs to pay for them. And then that was my awesome husband coming and taking the baby. So thanks for your patience. I'm going to do the share up again. I thought I could pause the recording from the share screen, but I couldn't. That's okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, so free and appropriate public education. Come on, buddy. There we go. Says that it needs to be free and appropriate for the child and for the family. Section 504 is an alternative to the IEP. So a child can say, my kid's on a 504, my kid's on an IEP. They're two separate things. I think you can do both at the same time. But a 504 is just an adaptation that needs to be done. So like my child needs to sit in the front of the room because otherwise she won't be able to see, or the teacher needs to wear a microphone on their shirt that's connected to an adaptive device so they can hear it because they're hard of hearing. Things like that, adaptations where they don't need speech services or physical therapy during the school day or modified curriculum at all. They just need something to help make sure they can access the education that they need. And then other relevant court cases, like if the school isn't providing the needed education, you can do due process. You can they may need to pay for public school access. There are a lot of court cases that have come through that have helped clarify the existing laws, especially IDEA and Section 505. So let's see if it'll let me advance now. Do, 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 do. Love the technology. And while we're waiting for the slide to advance, some more categories. So I know there's physical disability, intellectual disability, emotional delay, learning disability, autism, traumatic brain injury. Being so slow. Okay. So we have know their stuff, know who's doing the stuffing. So these are the members of the team who have come to the roundtable IEP meeting. Some of them are responsible for the assessments as well. So we have the general education teacher. They know the subject matter and are responsible for their own classroom management. A lot of times the concerns they bring to the table have to do with classroom management. Classroom management is their job, not your child's job or your job. Special ed teacher, they understand what the prerequisites are for qualification. They know what the placement options are. Like they'll know if they have pull-out options, if they have self-contained behavior classrooms. What does the school have? The special ed teacher will know that and know what the current adult to child ratio is in the school. The administrator, the principal will know the number of students, what the budget is. Money should never come into these conversations, but they still have it in the back of their head. You have to understand that it's a business meeting and it's a business contract that you're going over. They know the relevant laws. They understand who else they're going to have to hire this year, and past and current legal issues. These are all things they just have in the back of their head that will influence what they bring to the table. And then, of course, whoever else is involved in the case. So doctor's notes, psychologists, speech, PT, OT, they all have their own personal patient's level and their area of expertise and their willingness to be helpful. All of these do have those things. You also you're required to be invited as a parent to the meeting, I think 3 times. And then you can also bring anyone else with you, anyone at all. So you can bring another teacher that you know, you can bring a friend, you can bring your spouse, you can bring a trained advocate, or all of the above you can bring. They kind of like to know ahead of time. That's who, generally, this is who will be there. And don't get stuffed. These are some of the more common things that professionals will sometimes say. Again, this is supposed to be a collaborative effort. I'm not like being mean. These are some of the things that have come up as ways that members of the education team will deflect concerns or requests for evaluations or whatever, blow off certain things, services requests. These are some things that might get said. One is we have a policy not to do that. A good response to that is to quote the federal law that requires that to happen anyway, because federal law trumps school policy. Your child can do that just fine. A lot of times they'll want to pass off a child so they don't need an IEP anymore, or they at least don't need that goal anymore. And so it's good to ask what data they have to support that claim. Another I've heard is your child has learned helplessness. Basically, we don't need to help them anymore. They're just depending on us too much. If you did more at home, this wouldn't be a problem. This is a huge one that gets wielded a lot as a weapon against parents. It shouldn't be, it isn't fair, but it's the truth. A lot of times they're like, well, of course, your child has a behavior problem, and therefore you have a discipline problem. Like by extension, your child doesn't read. What's your problem? Your child doesn't walk. What's your problem? Your child doesn't sit down still. What's your problem? A lot of this is blaming the parent, and most special educators and administrators know better than that, but some less specialized teachers don't know, and it doesn't matter what the reason is. You just come up with something that feels good to you that you can say back, like, excuse me, did you just accuse me of causing my child's disability, or something like that, to get them thinking without being a jerk. And you can role play too. That's helpful. If you ever want to role play, just contact me. It can be tricky sometimes. And then when I had this call live, one of the parents said, he doesn't seem to be as severe as this external assessment. So the doctor said he's da-da-da-da-da, but looking at him, he looks fine. It's like, okay, and that's why I had him assessed by a doctor. Anyway, but you don't need to take it personally. You can just say, yeah, looks can be deceiving, can't they? And just say, well, that's irrelevant because we have data here that shows this, and that's what we're going to base the services he needs on, not what he looks like. Anyway, so these are some of the things you can say, and you can write them down. Writing down your questions ahead of time is a really good idea. Coming with a cheat sheet of responses that you can say is also a good plan. My dad, again, I said my sister was autism spectrum, would say, thank you for helping us educate our child. So whenever things got hot, got really heated, my sister actually didn't have any dangerous behaviors, but she had some that really triggered her second grade teacher. And it would become this attack session for my mom. And my mom would just get really upset. So whenever my dad could go, he would go, and he would always just kind of bring everybody back and say, thank you for helping us educate our child. It is my job to decide how my child's life goes. And I really appreciate your help in my doing that thing. And they help people to remember, oh yeah, we're here to do this thing. We're not here to kick anybody around. Also, if you feel like you're being unfairly treated, you can say, can I get that in writing? And also, if you skip to the bottom one, can you please state your name and say that right into the recorder? You need to check your state, but in most states, you can tape record the entire meeting, and that stands up in court. Writing it down in quotes on the day it happened also stands up in court. It's scary to say it stands up in court, but if you ever need to go to due process, you need to have the evidence. And even if you say, well, I have all this evidence, you don't want to go to court, so you need to give me what my child needs, and you need to not have this conversation about getting kicked around anymore. So check the laws, but if you can record, that's really the best option, because you need to say, oh, I don't want to miss anything, and I want to focus instead of having to take notes, so could I please record this? Not could I please record this, but I'm going to record this so I don't have to take notes. Yay. It doesn't have to be a big deal. And then if they do say something really inflammatory, you say, could you please state your name and say that right into the recorder? And then they have to own it, and they have to decide if they really want to say that or not. Thank you for doing your job and letting me do mine. Looks can be deceiving. Do you have data to back that up? So these are just some ideas. So here are some ideas, some ways to become a better advocate. You can hire an advocate. They generally charge 500-ish to 1,000-ish, depending on your state and region. You want to pick one. Like, there are great articles online on how to pick one. Very worth it. If your child, especially if your child has some needs that are expensive, medically complicated, or if they're not verbal, they can't come home and say, "Mom, my teacher did this mean thing to me today," is especially important. But it really is helpful to have somebody in there that knows what they're talking about, knows what you can ask for, knows what the laws are, and can advocate for you without getting emotional about it. You can also become an advocate. So a lot of parents go this route. You can get a free class that's not official. There's board cert. I don't know what board off the top of my head, but there's an advocate training course that's like $2,000-ish. Moving to a better school district is an option. I'm trying to make a wiki of like all the best school districts in the whole country, or where to go for special needs. I know mine is fantastic. I know others that I've interviewed also have fantastic ones. Or if moving is not an option and you really are having a rough time, consider homeschooling, or at least saying home-based. You can have people, have service providers come to your homeschool. But if you're having a hard time with them in the school, you won't have an easier time with them out of the school. And then the final option is the Power IEP Advocacy pilot course, which as of this moment, if you jump on, will be $97. Once it becomes a full course, a big 12-week thing, it will be $497. But because it's in the planning stages, the rough stages, the my kid might cry during the call stages, my husband might sweetly come in and take the baby so that I can continue a call stages. It's just $97, but it's not going to stay that way, even that low, for this long. So for very long. So this is for the people who helped me out, showed up for the first webinar, and for who I interviewed with that helped me build this, because I'm raising the price to $197 for everybody else. So jump on, do this. I don't have really fancy technology to discern who's who, so I'm just gonna promote this to you guys, give you like a week, and then switch it. So please jump on there and do this. Now, what does it entail? How am I going to know if it's for me? So the goal of the pilot course is to give high-touch support for mothers of children with special needs to help you navigate the eligibility process with confidence and avoid getting blown off or being a jerk. So you can navigate without being blown off and navigate without being a jerk. So the steps are, first you enroll, and the same moment you enroll, you also schedule your first one-on-one call. There are 2 one-on-one calls, one at the beginning of the course and one at the end. And in the middle, there are 3 group calls. Week 1 is special ed history, which is know their stuff. Week 2 is the team, know who's doing the stuffing. And week 3 is the round table and not getting stuffed. You set your goal in the beginning, conclude at the end, go through the whole eligibility process. You can get the below this video, I'll send a link to the info page so you can see a little bit more detailed what's in it. But this basically is it. It's 2 calls, 2 one-on-one calls, 3 group calls, and there's a bonus. There's a bonus hero story, because one of the things that you can do to help it go well is to thank everybody for being there. I really appreciate you being part of our team. Here's a little something from me, a little candy thing or whatever. And also you can pass around, like, this is Joe. He is 6 years old. He loves to listen to guitar music. He loves to sit out in the sun. just to personalize it, but also he needs da-da-da on his IEP. He needs da-da-da accommodations. He needs da-da-da accommodations. Because everybody else passes out their paperwork and reports. So why not bring your child to the meeting, even if you're not bringing them personally to the meeting? So that, how to write that document, the hero story, I call it the hero story. You can also make it into a flip book and make it a narrative therapy for your child. And you can use this over and over again and make 100 books if you want. So the hero story training course, how to make My Child is Awesome, and This Is Why book, basically. Storybook is included in this course as a bonus. So it's not one of these things, it's a bonus. It's a standalone video, which I'll send you shortly after you schedule your first call. Your first call will happen sometime in September, and special ed history begins the 1st of October. So that's a Monday at noon. If you can't be there, it'll be recorded. I'll email it to you. Do not despair. If you are there, though, you can ask questions after the presentation that I give. Week 2 is the team. That's the following Monday. Week 3 is the Monday after that. And then the conclusion, that last one-on-one call is whenever after after week 3 lesson and before the end of October. So, like I said, the full course will be $497. For the beta course, it's 2 call, 3 group lessons for $97. You can go to poweradvocacycall.youcanbook.me. I'm going to cap it at 20 people. So when 20 people are in, doors closed, we're done. And this is the beginning. Where are you? Just whether or not you decide to take this course, you're a good mom. You're an amazing person. I know you're probably tired of hearing people tell you that, oh, I couldn't do what you do. Like, it's not the point. The point is you're doing the best you can, and you deserve a round of applause for that, because it's not easy. And you can do it. There's support available. Look up Facebook groups for your child's specific disability and ask questions there. Special needs in your state. World Schoolers Special Needs is a good one, especially if you're not in the United States all the time. Trying to think of any others off the top of my head. There's a ton of them for autism that I'm part of. Obviously, I'm not in every single sundry disability group, but I will be joining more. So just reach out, interview a special needs teacher and see what resources she would recommend. And of course, at any time you can reach out to me or join my Power Advocacy group on Facebook, and we'll talk there. And here's a picture of my big happy family. Thank you for sharing this journey with me, and do whatever you choose. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to watch, and reach out to me at any time. And again, the URL for that course is poweradvocacycall.youcanbook.me. I look forward to talking to you. Thanks for being here. Feel free to share this video and reach out to me personally on Facebook or respond to this email. Thanks.